Thank you very much for inviting me here. Such a pleasure to see so many wonderful, conservative, Christian American people. 75 years ago, the Austrian people elected a man by the name of Adolf Hitler. The year was 1938. Austria's economy was zero. We had more than 30% unemployment. We had 25% inflation, and if you borrowed money from the bank, you paid 25% interest. Farmers were going bankrupt, business were going bankrupt, nobody had any money, poverty was rampant. What was even worse, we almost had anarchy. There were two political factions fighting each other. The Communist Party was getting very powerful, very strong, and on the other side, the National Socialist Party, Hitler's party. Listen carefully. I translate Nationalsozialismus. From the word national, the word Nazi derived. So we heard from the media that in Germany, where Hitler ruled since 1933, they had the same problem what Austria had at the present: unemployment, lawlessness, and rioting, horrible, horrible times. And Hitler was elected in Germany by one vote. And what we heard from the media, that in Germany now, 1938, they had full employment, they had a high living standard, everybody was happy, they were driving the little Beetle car, the Volkswagen, and nothing was being said that anybody was being arrested or discriminated. Everybody was happy. So the Austrian people said, why not? Why not annex Austria to Germany? We spoke the same language. We had the same culture. There was only a border between us, like South and North Dakota. So we wanted to have a leader who would provide jobs and take care of the lawlessness, the riots. We had riots in our big cities, gunfights, and they were burning down whole blocks of city, and our police force was almost not able to do anything. They were helpless. So in 1938, like I said, almost to the date, April 10th, the Austrian people elected Hitler by 98% of the vote. Now, you might ask, how could a nation, a Christian nation, almost 100% Catholic, to elect a monster like Hitler? Well, Hitler did not look like a monster. He did not act like a monster. He talked like an American politician. He promised us everything. Number one, he said within 3 weeks, everybody will have a job. And also, he said, those greedy banks who charge 25% interest, all the farmers will get their farms back and the businesses will get their business back. I will see to it. And of course, immediately the Red Cross came in from Germany and fed all the hungry people. The people were so deep in poverty that I remember in my home, about 30 people a day would knock on the door for a bowl of soup and a slice of bread. My mother, a good Christian woman, she had a kettle of soup on her stove every day, and they were baking bread every day because those people who came to the door, they wanted to work, but no jobs. They begged for a bowl of soup and a slice of bread, and many of them were college graduates, but no jobs. So Hitler said, I will provide jobs for everybody. And yes, he did. He built the freeway, the Autobahn, and thousands of people would get jobs. And then he also provided a lot of public jobs, working for the government. So a lot of people were hired right away for work at the government. And also, we got new laws. Nobody was elected anymore. From the school board, the city commission, the county commission, to the legislature, to the governors, everybody was appointed. Well, we did not question anything because the government in Germany was going so well, they would only pick the very best people to govern us. We did not ask any questions. So we got the new government, a Nazi government. The first thing what Hitler did, he gave us free radios that we could listen to him. Oh, he was a great orator. He could give wonderful speeches. He was a great orator. And of course, we didn't know hardly anything about him, his background. We didn't know anything. The media did not report anything. So when we got the free radios, what Hitler did, he nationalized the radio station. And we were warned, if anybody would turn on a foreign radio station, British Broadcasting or Switzerland, death penalty. So nobody listened to a foreign radio station because you were being executed. The newspaper, before it hit the street, it was being censored. If they spoke anything against Hitler, that was cut out of the newspaper. So we had no voice, nothing, except what the government told us. Nothing. So a lot of things happened very fast, and most of it by executive orders. Yes. One of the first things what happened, Hitler looted the banks, the Jewish banks, and then he nationalized all our banks. He said, those greedy banks, they charge 25% interest. We have to regulate those banks. We have to oversee those banks, that they don't do that again to charge 25% interest. And that's why the farmers and businesses were going broke, because of the high interest rate. So we have to nationalize and regulate all the banks. The next thing what happened, he nationalized our car industry. Austria, yes he did. Austria produced a little car, was called the Steyr. Little bit bigger than a Fiat. So he said, we don't need another little car. We already have the Volkswagen, the Beetle car. So he changed the car industry into a defense industry. So we did not question that either. We just thought, well, that's good to have a good national defense, you know. Didn't question anything. The next thing what we had, what we call here, regionalism. Hitler said in Austria we had 7 states. And he said we don't need 7 states. We merged it into 5 states. It's a lot easier to govern. Then we only have 5 governors, and we save a lot of money. We save a lot of salaries. So under socialism, and that's what we had, socialism, the most important component is to centralize everything, to take away local control. Centralization under socialism is a very, very important component. In South Dakota, as a lobbyist, I found some years ago 3 times a bill where they wanted to merge our 66 counties into 15 counties. We would lose all the courthouses except 15. And I thought, oh my, history is coming back. And as I testified before the committee, that to merge all those counties into 15 is exactly what Hitler did under socialism. And don't let that happen here, because you are losing local control. Thank you. The meeting room, the committee room was packed with county commissioners. And when they heard me testify, never before anybody would clap in the meeting room, but that meeting room, all the commissioners, they clapped. They understood that they would lose all local control. So that's regionalism. The next thing, equality. Equality means to equalize everything. To equalize the country's wealth. The equality had 2 components, economic and socially. Economically, because we created a huge welfare system, and it also contained a guaranteed income for everybody. A guaranteed income. So under the economic, because we had a huge welfare system to help everybody, to equalize everything. Here we call it a fair share. So by equalizing everybody's income was that the people who worked very hard and were very industrious, our taxes escalated up to 70%. And by means of a guaranteed income, those people who worked hard and paid 70% income tax, they had to bring those people up who were on a lower income level. So they got subsidized housing, food stamps, heating allowance, whatever they needed. So we had an equal income system. That's called socialism, to equalize the income, the wealth of the country, and divide it amongst everybody. So everybody is on the same level. Now, that's economically. Socially, what happened? Because under socialism, everybody has to be out in the workforce. So the moms who stayed home and raised their family were put out into the workforce. If you did not work outside of your home, you were called a dirty name. You were actually the enemy of the state. You were a parasite. So the moms immediately went out into the workforce. Jobs were being created. So what happened to the children? Well, the government immediately had a remedy for that: child care centers. You could bring your children at age 4 weeks or 6 weeks to the child care center, and you could leave them there 24 hours, 7 days a week. The longer you left them there, the more they liked it. So they could mold the little kiddies exactly how the state wanted them. Now the women who ran the child care centers, they were not the grandmotherly type of women, what we know here, to do the home daycare or the babysitters. They were young women, highly skilled in child psychology, to mold our children exactly how the state wanted them. So the state raised our children. Of course, we did not question that either, because it was free, free daycare. You could leave your children there, and it was all paid by the government, i.e. the taxpayer. So the next thing, what happened, a lot of new laws were being created, a lot of bureaucrats, huge apparatus of bureaucrats. A lot of rules were being written by bureaucrats, whether it was for the business or for the farmers. Those bureaucrats would go out on the farm and inspect everything, that everything was safe and healthy. They would tell the farmers how much he had to plant and what he had to plant and how much he had to harvest regardless of the weather. They counted their livestock. Of course, the government established a food bank, and all the food had to be turned in to the government. The bureaucrats would go out on the farm and count the chickens and order the chickens how much eggs they had to lay. And if the farmer did not provide what the government demanded, either he had to pay a heavy fine or he was being jailed. So a huge apparatus of bureaucrats, here we call them the SARS. And they'll do the same thing. I mean, we already know how many rules are being written by the bureaucrats in Washington